The moment Monique Harrison stepped into the grand lobby of the Kensington Royal Hotel, the air shifted, as if the polished marble and golden chandeliers themselves recoiled from her presence. Monique, a 41-year-old black woman with sharp, observant eyes and an elegant navy suit that spoke of authority and success, approached the front desk with the calm certainty of someone who had built an empire yet faced prejudice countless times before. Her heels clicked against the floor, echoing through the space, and the staff immediately stiffened, smiles frozen, hands hovering nervously over keyboards. "Good afternoon," Monique said, her voice steady and controlled, requesting the room she had booked weeks in advance under her name. The receptionist, a young man with nervous eyes, glanced down at the screen, then back up, and said hesitantly, "I'm sorry, madam, we don't have a room available at the moment." Confusion flickered across Monique's face for just a heartbeat before she noticed the subtle shift in the lobby. Other guests were being checked in effortlessly while she was stalled, her identity seemingly invisible or inconvenient. "I have a confirmed reservation," Monique said again, calm but firm, handing over her confirmation email, but the receptionist hesitated, glancing toward a manager who avoided her gaze. The manager, a middle-aged white woman with a tight smile, stepped forward and suggested there had been a mistake, though her tone carried an unmistakable edge of dismissal. Every second stretched like a test of patience, and Monique felt the familiar heat of frustration rising, tempered only by the clarity she had honed over years of commanding respect in rooms that were often hostile before she even spoke. Guests whispered, their curiosity masked as polite murmurs, and some avoided looking at her entirely, pretending nothing unusual was happening. Monique inhaled slowly, assessing the situation, understanding immediately that this was not a clerical error, but a deliberate act of prejudice dressed in bureaucratic language. Her eyes scanned the lobby discreetly, noting the nervous tension of the staff, the subtle shuffling of papers, and the unspoken assumption that she would accept the humiliation quietly. She did not smile, she did not plead, and she did not raise her voice, because she knew that authority is often recognized not through anger, but through unwavering composure. "I will be staying in this hotel tonight," she said finally, her voice carrying the weight of someone accustomed to making difficult decisions swiftly. The staff stiffened again, sensing the shift in tone, the quiet but unmistakable promise of consequences if their behavior continued. Monique placed her bag on the counter, meeting the eyes of the manager directly, her calm gaze saying more than words ever could. "If you feel the tension in this moment, take a second to subscribe, because what happens next will transform humiliation into reckoning. And if you have ever been denied respect in a place you deserve to be, comment where you are watching from, because this story is only beginning." The lobby fell into uneasy silence as Monique Harrison straightened, her elegant navy suit flawless, her eyes steady and sharp, and every staff member felt the weight of her presence like a beam of light exposing shadowed intentions. She reached for her phone calmly, not in panic but in preparation, sending a quick message to the hotel owner while keeping her gaze fixed on the manager, whose forced smile was already cracking under scrutiny, because Monique understood that authority backed by clarity and action cannot be ignored. And as she spoke, her voice calm yet undeniably commanding, she reminded them that she was not a guest to be bargained with, but the rightful occupant of a room she had booked. And any further obstruction would carry consequences that were immediate and inescapable. Whispers and shuffling filled the air as other guests paused mid-conversation, sensing that a quiet revolution was unfolding, one that would make the arrogance of prejudice visible for all to witness. And when the hotel owner's assistant arrived moments later, apologetic and flustered, Monique explained succinctly that she had been deliberately denied her room, outlining each staff member's dismissive actions with precise clarity. Her words leaving no room for excuses, and her calm authority amplifying the shame of their behavior. The staff could only watch, frozen, as she requested the immediate clearing of the lobby for a brief procedural check. And in those 9 minutes, every member of the team became painfully aware that bias had consequences, that respect is never optional, and that leadership comes with accountability. And when she finally returned to the front desk, the hotel owner beside her nodding in support, Monique delivered her decision with quiet finality, informing them that their positions were terminated effective immediately. Their disbelief mingled with the uncomfortable truth that discrimination in her presence had just cost them everything. The guests, who had first whispered behind her back, now watched with awe, realizing that courage, intelligence, and calm decisiveness could dismantle years of prejudice in mere moments. And as Monique collected her keys and walked toward the elevator, her posture unshaken, the lobby transformed from a place of humiliation to a theater of reckoning, a lesson etched indelibly into the walls. And if you feel the power of this moment, take a second to subscribe. Because what comes next will reveal the ripple of authority and respect. And if you have ever faced prejudice yet acted with dignity, comment where you are watching from, because the final chapter will show the full impact of courage and justice. As Monique Harrison stepped into the now hushed lobby, the remnants of tension clung to the polished marble like dust, and every eye followed her with a mixture of awe and disbelief, realizing that the woman they had attempted to humiliate was not only their employer, but a force whose calm authority had reshaped the room in minutes. Her 41-year-old presence, sharp eyes, and elegant navy suit radiated confidence, and as she moved deliberately toward the reception desk, the staff shrank back, suddenly aware that every action they had taken, even the smallest hesitation, was now under scrutiny, each gesture a reflection of their bias made visible, and Monique allowed herself a brief pause to absorb the silence, the shift in energy, and the subtle nods of respect from guests who had once ignored her. Because this was the moment when patience, intelligence, and courage converged into undeniable power. She addressed the remaining employees one last time, her voice calm yet firm, explaining that positions are privileges tied to respect, professionalism, and recognition of equality, and as she spoke, each word landed like a precise instrument. Measuring character, exposing prejudice, and rewarding integrity, while outside the lobby, news of her actions had begun to circulate, whispers transforming into admiration, and the subtle click of heels signaled her movement toward the elevators, each step resonating with authority and dignity, a quiet storm that left no room for arrogance. Guests who had once stared in judgment now exchanged glances filled with astonishment, some discreetly applauding her decisiveness, others reflecting on their own assumptions, realizing that courage does not need anger to demand justice. Monique paused briefly at the elevator, turning to glance at the stunned staff one last time, her eyes steady, her posture unyielding, conveying a silent message. Respect is earned by action, bias carries consequences, and dignity is never negotiable. As the doors closed, the lobby seemed to exhale, the atmosphere permanently altered, a space once defined by prejudice now a testament to empowerment and the power of decisive leadership. And for anyone witnessing this transformation, whether in the room or through this story, the lesson is clear. Courage, intelligence, and self-respect are the strongest forces against injustice, and every act of calm authority can dismantle fear, discrimination, and complacency in ways that anger never could. If this moment resonates, take a second to subscribe, because the final chapter will reveal the lasting ripples of Monique's courage. And if you have ever turned humiliation into triumph, comment where you are watching from, because the conclusion will leave a mark on every heart that witnesses it. 9 minutes had passed, yet the impact of Monique Harrison's calm authority reverberated through the Kensington Royal Hotel like a shockwave that could not be ignored. And as she returned from the elevator to collect her keys, the staff and remaining guests felt the gravity of what had transpired. Monique, 41, black, with sharp eyes and her navy suit impeccably tailored, moved with deliberate poise, every step a quiet declaration that dignity and respect are never optional, and the atmosphere that had once been heavy with prejudice now trembled under the weight of consequence and clarity. She paused at the reception desk, eyes meeting each staff member individually, not with rage but with an unflinching assessment, and her words fell like measured gavel strikes. Your behavior has cost you your positions. Respect, fairness, and professionalism are non-negotiable in this hotel. Bias and arrogance have no place here. Gasps and stammered apologies filled the air, yet Monique's expression remained composed, her voice steady, demonstrating that justice can be firm without needing to humiliate further, because her presence alone had already turned the tables. Guests whispered among themselves, their initial curiosity transformed into awe, many secretly recording or noting the scene as a lesson in courage and leadership, while the manager, who had once smiled tightly at her, now understood the consequences of dismissing integrity and humanity, her confidence crumbling before the undeniable authority Monique embodied. Monique gathered her keys, moving to the grand staircase with calm finality, each step echoing a story of resilience, intelligence, and self-respect triumphing over prejudice. And as she reached the mezzanine, she turned to the room one last time, her gaze sharp yet forgiving, leaving an unspoken lesson. Power is earned by courage, fairness, and competence, not inherited, assumed, or flaunted through bias. In that moment, the lobby became a theater of transformation, the lesson indelibly etched into the minds of all who had witnessed it. That injustice can be confronted calmly, decisively, and with strategy, and that true authority is rooted in integrity and action, leaving no room for doubt or dismissal. As Monique exited the hotel with grace, the whispers shifted into admiration, the once dismissive staff left to reflect on their choices, and the audience, whether present or watching this story unfold, could see the undeniable truth. Prejudice can be dismantled, respect can be commanded, and courage, even quiet and measured, changes the world in ways that fury cannot. If this story moved you, take a second to subscribe, because witnessing triumph over injustice inspires change everywhere, and comment where you are watching from, because the moral is clear. Respect, intelligence, and composure are stronger than mockery, bias, and fear, and they always leave a lasting impact.